Welcome back to the Leeds Rhinos Podcast, episode 40. My name's Phil Daly. I'm the head of media and PR at Leeds Rhinos, and it's a Thursday, which means that it's our Q&A edition, and I'm delighted to be joined by our women's head coach, Lois Forsell, and we're going to be talking all thing women's and girls rugby league and looking ahead to a massive game this Friday when the Rhinos take on St Helens in the Betfred Women's Super League here at AMT Headingley. And we've had a bumper mailbag, Lois, the most questions we've ever had, and we'll get to those very shortly. But just before we get into the questions from the fans, just obviously you've had an incredible career as a player, both with Bradford, Leeds, and England. Going back over your career, what's the highlights of your career?
I think quite a few. I think a real proud moment was obviously joining the club as their first signing and getting that captaincy in year one. Before that, the sort of spell I had at Bradford Bulls, winning the treble with a really good group of girls, a good group of friends. I think you'll always remember those memories when you hang your boots up, and they're really close to my heart. And then, like I say, been at Leeds, obviously gutted that my playing career didn't span as long as I would have wished it did, but sometimes those things happen. But yeah, I think that first year with Leeds, really getting something off the ground with people who were really invested in it, and it was really exciting. Obviously winning the Challenge Cup, and then the girls getting into the grand final that year as well. So I think they were really good memories. Obviously playing international, and probably the World Cup in 2017, going to Australia, seeing how the game is on the other side of the world, seeing how much the game had grown from the previous World Cup that I played in 2013. But yeah, they're probably some of the key highlights I've got.
I mean, you think back to those early days of the Bulls, Challenge Cup finals on a park pitch, pretty much, and now obviously we have it at Wembley. Can you believe how much the game's grown in a relatively short period of time?
I can believe that it's grown, but like you say, it's that timeline of which it's grown within. I think, like you say, you were playing at Heworth in that Challenge Cup final with Bulls, and then the grand final was at the regional arena. And I remember at the time thinking, "Oh, we're in a stadium, that's brilliant." And then you think, fast forward a couple of years, and it's at Wembley, and they're the pinch moments, and rightfully so. The girls, putting so much work to be able to be put on the biggest of stages and have our day performing and enjoying it, and we want to just keep seeing that improving and that development growing. But yeah, I remember it was probably a bit of a pinch me moment when I was still working in the schools. I'd been injured, so I think it was a 2019 year. So I'd been injured and I was coaching at Garforth Academy, and I was telling the girls when I was leaving, make sure you turn on Sky tonight. The girls will be playing in the grand final. It's going to be on Sky. It's at this time. And then walking out, getting on the bus, and we were travelling to go and play that evening. And I just remember thinking, like, that's full circle. We've never been able to show the girls exactly what's happening and what they're doing. And I think from that moment, the girls' game off the field as well as improved in that junior section. So, what the girls are doing at Women's Super League level is brilliant. But I think they've been able to see it and then be it. It's just made the game grow even more with more girls playing than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, that's the old adage. If you can see it, you can be it. And actually having role models that young girls can aspire to be like and set the tempo and copy and learn, do the same tricks they see on the pitch, it can only be good for the game.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see the girls, like when we come to Headingley or even going away, and the supporters of our team, Leeds Rhinos Women, are travelling to watch. I think just seeing the girls with their players on the back of their shirt, like, you wouldn't have had that unless it were your cousin or someone that knew you, but it's girls that don't even know the players, that just aspire, look up to them, want to be like them and want to emulate what they're doing. And it's just so good that they have that opportunity now within community clubs, within the schools, with the foundation, and then, our pathway moving up that pyramid. So yeah, it's in a real good place, and it's just really good to see the growth that we've had over the last couple of years.
Fantastic stuff. We'll get into some of the questions. Simple one to start with. Your favourite thing about the Rhinos?
The people. I think just the people that you get to be in and around. I think that, I think the people say it before, surround yourself with quality people and you'll get a lot out of what you're doing. And I think that's what it's about. I think that the people that are in the women's team and the people that are coaching on our pathway, just the people who are at the club, I think that's probably the best thing is in terms of that. And obviously that extends to fans who come along and support the game as well.
Yeah, it's great now, isn't it, that the games are played here at AMT Headingley, that we've got an instance this week where it's a double head with the men's first team. We also have standalone fixtures where the 19s play before the first team women here at the stadium. Just to have that, to be in a position where fans can come down and see the Rhinos play where at the Rhinos home ground.
Yeah, and I think that's like having all the people pushing in the right direction. So I think that we're very, very lucky that we've got a group of a staff team and members of the club who want to push the women's game and put it out there and make sure that we're constantly evolving and adapting and changing, and we're not kind of just settling. And I think, like you say, like playing all of our home games at Headingley is absolutely outstanding. It's amazing. Seeing the under-19s play some of their games, obviously, that's been brilliant. They played against Warrington a couple of weeks back. So yeah, we just want to keep growing that and making sure that the girls get the best opportunities, and it's then they can operate in a high challenge, high reward environment.
Fantastic stuff. Next one from Nathan. Who is the most passionate in the changing room?
Oof, that's a tough one. The most passionate. I'd say all the girls are real passionate, but all in different ways. I think that you've kind of got Lucy Murray's really passionate, but like not passionate as I'm going to shout about it. She's really she reflects a lot about her own performance, and she just expects such high standards of herself. So you can always tell whether she's coming in, she's had a real good game. You can tell if she's coming in, she's struggling with it a little bit. You need to spend some time with her and allow her to talk that through, because she's really passionate in making sure she gets it right and gives a good account of herself all the time. And she's probably quite harsh on herself at times as well. So she's quite an easy one for a coach to work with, because she's probably already picked up anything you wanted to pick up and been messaged herself harsher about it than what you would do. So for Muzzy, it's always making sure that you remind her about all the amazing things that she does, because she's a quality player. I think Bethan Dayton's really passionate. She's very competitive. Kira Bennett, yeah, she's fiery. Bella Sykes, fiery. Don't want to be... Remember, like, yeah, she's fiery. She's Connie Winfield Hill calls her Psycho. Nickname of the Sykes. Yeah, affectionately. Yeah. So, yeah, Bella's really passionate and competitive. Ella, I don't know, I could go on, but I think that, yeah, there's definitely a few who definitely show it more than others. But yeah, we've got quite a passionate group, and I just love seeing that spill over into competitiveness. Like I say, like watching Bella catch the ball on the back line and return. Yeah.
But that's what a team's about, having all those different parts merging together to form a collective.
And they're all passionate. They're all passionate, and they're all heading in one direction. But how they present that and how they manifest that is very different. But yeah, they're good, and I'm looking forward to seeing a passionate performance on Friday. I
mean, this week you mentioned Friday's game. It's live on Sky Sports, and fans will be able to watch it. Do you have to manage with the players? Obviously, from the last couple of years, all the men's games are on Sky. Every game in the round, but it's not as common for the women's players. Do you see? Do they talk about it more, or is there any more anxiety around it being a televised game?
I think there definitely will be more anxiety around it. We don't talk overly about it. I think because it's just one of those things now. I think when you play the big games, it's going to be televised. So whether that's semi-final, a round game, we know there's them times. I think it's just checking in with people, making sure that they're dead clear on what they need to be doing their job, and just reminding them that it's they don't need to do anything different outside of what they would do if it wasn't a televised game. But yeah, just making sure they know they've got someone to check in with. And I think what also is different is the Friday games. I think that obviously people maybe don't always take into account that a lot of them are coming from work. They've got a lot of commitments that they have to do before they get to that game, and we'd love to think that some of them can just take annual leave and have the full day off and prep well, but you've got people like Izzy Northrop, who's a teacher, who's flying down from Newcastle from teaching in a school all day and then getting prepped and switching on ready for a Friday night game. And you've got all sorts of different scenarios. So the Friday night games are definitely different ones to manage as well, with it being a Sky game, but also the early kick-off and different prep for them. But that's part of the learnings for the girls, and they've been doing it quite well so far. So sure it won't be any bother.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I mentioned at the start there, we've probably had more questions for you than we've had for any other guest on Q&A, but funnily enough, none of them talk about that aspect, that the players' day-to-day lives and how they have to fit training and playing around that. Just give us an idea of, a player's week, what that will involve in terms of, their work commitments, how often they train, and then obviously prep for a game?
Yeah, so I think majority of our girls work full time or are in full time education. So they'll be Monday to Friday tied up doing bits like that, and we've got girls doing all sorts of different jobs. So you've got like Ella Donnelly, who's a medic in the army. She's driving length of the country because she's obviously posted in different hospitals, different bases and things like that, and dealing with that her job can change at any time because she's obviously serving, so at some point she might need to move. You've got people like Bethan Dainton travelling from Nottingham week in week out, Izzy, school teacher, travelling from the northeast. So they all have commitments throughout the week, Monday to Friday, work-wise, sometimes spilling into weekends. But in terms of our schedule, we're training Tuesdays and Thursdays, tend to start at 6, so the girls need to be around from 5:30, absolute latest. A lot of them tend to get there for 5, just to do their prep before anything starts, see physio, whether they need to have massage after a tough game at the weekend. But we're Tuesday, Thursday, and then we play either Friday, Saturday or Sunday, and that's added another sort of difficult one for them in terms of balancing that it's always changing and getting employers that are really supportive. And a lot of the girls are lucky that their employers are supportive, because it is a big ask sometimes, asking for that flexibility. They obviously then have to train independently on the Mondays and the Wednesdays, completing their gym and their con bits. And then some of the girls playing representative. The girls had origin training on Sunday, and they'll have representative bits throughout the year. So yeah, it's definitely a lot for them to balance and manage, but they do it because they love it, and that's what's probably really unique and nice about the women's game at the moment, that we're not probably where we want to be in terms of contracts and full-time contracts, where we can offer that they don't have to do that, but actually they're doing it because they really care and they want to, and we'll keep pushing to get to that point where we can offer contracts and we can cut a bit of slack for them. But I think that shows, when you ask me that question about passionate, that's why they're all passionate. They give up so much to make sure they're the best version of themselves, and they're always looking to try and give themselves a good account of themselves on the field, to represent the Rhino as well.
You mentioned there about contracts. A question from Josh Biggs asking about the money involved in the game. So as Leeds as a club, or one of the clubs that do give some money back to the players, and that's based around winning bonuses at the end of the season. How do you feel that's worked, and where do you see the game going forward in terms of future? Presumably the next step would be semi-professional before professional.
I think in terms of how we support the girls, they have some support around expenses in terms of travel expenses. There's appearance fees for media events, so that if anyone's having to take time out of the day that's not related to on field, then they'll get a payment for that, to representing the club as them, and then obviously match fees. Look, we'd love to be paying the girls part-time contracts, and we are invested in making sure that we get to that point, and we've just got to make sure that when we do, it's sustainable, and we can continue to keep growing on the back of it. So we are pushing on that, and that's ultimately where we need to get to. But I think that the game's developing, and you can only go so fast so soon, and we're definitely getting there. And I think that the girls at the club know that we push each year to be better in some capacity, and we'll keep doing that, and we are doing our best putting our best foot forward to make sure that we are pushing towards getting them part-time contracts over the line when it's sustainable. Like I say, you don't want to be starting it and then have to go, actually, we haven't got that right, and that needs to change. Once we do it, we want to run with it and make sure that that's us for the future.
Yeah, and if you listen to this and thinking, you'd love to be part of that, and how can you help the team develop? We've got some fantastic partners who are already investing in the team, but we're always looking for more companies to get on board, and the more money we can generate, as you say there, Lois, we make it sustainable, and that will go towards, that's our goal to take the team forward. So if you're interested in that, get in touch with the club, because we really want to build this women's team and give more role models for young girls to aspire to be just like. That's probably a good point to get a question from Mark. How do you feel the girls and women's game is progressing? You've touched on the leaps we've got to this point, but going forward, how do you think we're progressing?
I think it's all going on a really, really good trajectory, and I think you look back at where it was and where it is now. We just need to keep making sure that it's, sometimes from the external you only see that, well, they're not getting paid, but actually, how have we improved to make sure that everyone's getting looked after? So bits for us this year is like that if girls require surgery, they're getting private surgery. So rather than waiting on NHS lists, we're trying to make sure that they're looked after sooner, and that they can then start their recovery a little bit quicker, because obviously that's a difficult part within sport at the moment. Like I say, the things that other organisations and the governing bodies are making sure that we're on with in terms of promoting the game, it's going in a real good direction. I think that we need to keep challenging the on-field performances, and I think that that's going to keep improving as these young players keep coming through. I think you look at our squad, we've got quite a young squad this year, but look at how they've come through and the value that they've added. I think that as they mature within the game and become senior players, and you keep that young sort of pathway coming through, it's just exciting that I think it is going to be really competitive, and it just will see the game go from strength to strength. And I just think, like you say, we want to get to the point where the girls are having, part-time, semi-professional contracts, whatever that may look like. But I think there's so much growth outside of that maybe you don't always see, in terms of the coverage, in terms of the medical care, in terms of, the pathways. More Super League teams now have got pathways, and actually that's really important. And we'd love to invest everywhere, but you've got to think, well, actually, we need to make sure that we've got players coming through so we can keep paying people on contracts. Because if you don't have any players and the pool's too small, then we get a little bit stifled there as well. So I think that improving the player pool and keep developing and strengthening it and increasing the depth will help make sure that when that comes, that's good, and it's kind of a proper pyramid that's functional, basically.
Yeah, it's a good point about the player pool. I mean, you've been involved in girls' development of rugby league for a long time now through the work of the foundation. A lot of the times, I imagine when you were first doing that, it was the first time a girl had a rugby ball in her hands, you're introducing the sport to them. Do you see that there's been a change on that now? There's more, because of the growth of women's sport in general. We've seen with the Lionesses and everything else, that girls now can talk about being involved in sport, about it being dismissed. Do you see that growth? And then I suppose a follow on from that was, when you look at our pathways, the skills that they now arrived into the pathway, is that improved significantly?
Yeah, and I think, I remember, obviously as a player when I was younger, my mum, I was living in East Leeds, but I had to travel to South Leeds, which isn't, in miles, but it isn't local to where I was. And I know that it were not a tough ask for mum and dad, but when you've got brothers and other siblings that you're having to travel different directions, I know as a parent now, more local is better. Yeah. You don't want to be travelling if you can avoid it. It's just easier for parents struggling. So I know that my mum committed to that, and my dad, to make sure that I had an opportunity. But now, and I remember at the foundation early doors, people would send an email in and say, I want to join, where can I go and play? And I remember getting up your maps and thinking, well, you live there, but you're going to have to travel all the way over there, yeah. And that's probably going to put you off. Are we going to get them to get there or not? I'm not sure. And now I think it's just dead easy. You go, yeah, there's a local one there. Yeah. No matter where you are in Leeds, there's, Guiseley is one of the newer teams that are up and running. We've always struggled to get enough teams in North Leeds. It always seemed to be just Stanley, which was a bit out of the way for, and that's probably not even North, but do you know what I mean? That was the closest one for them to go to. So either from the North, you either travelling to West Leeds or East Leeds. And it's kind of a barrier for some kids and some families. So actually the opportunity to play now is better than ever. And a lot of teams operating, and that's a credit to the work that the foundation and community clubs are doing. And then, like you say, pathway is actually a lot of Super League clubs wanting to be involved in having a pathway. I think in the past when we started our 16s, we were probably one of the standalones, and now actually, it's competitive. There's all the teams across Women's Super League looking at wanting to make sure they get the best players in their pathway, because they know that's going to be the next player who comes through to represent their Women's Super League team. And I think that everyone's got a pride around where the game is at the minute in creating homegrown players. So yeah, I think it's come on from strength to strength, and I think the skills definitely improved, and it will keep improving. I think we just need to keep pushing that in terms of giving them opportunities through the foundation with skill days, development days, and the P2P is massive in terms of having a couple of years and focused on core skill development, because there's not many playing opportunities, if any at all. So our 16s this year on our P2P haven't played a game, but they've been in for maybe, say, 24 sessions throughout the year. And it's all been about, core skill development, increasing their physical competencies, making sure that they're comfortable in the gym, making sure they understand how fitness plays a part in their game, because sometimes you get the best players through and they might be the best in their age group, but they never get challenged because their team might be winning. They might be in a really successful team. So actually, fitness-wise, they never really get pushed past an area where they go, actually, that's an area I can develop. So keeping them hungry and keeping them developing is massive. But yeah, it's so much better now in terms of the opportunities and the availability.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic, and as I've mentioned before on here, my daughter plays rugby league. She's at Guiseley, and they're with Berkenshaw, and I think the whole vibe around girls rugby league is just brilliant for the games, and the teams. I've been blown away with the amount of girls that are playing the game, and how passionate the teams are about their key areas.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to when we were just speaking then about sponsorship opportunities. Like, I know it's probably a bit of a plug, but I think that the women and girls game, whether that's supporting the foundation, supporting the women's first team in the club or pathway, like there's so much growth to be done and to be had, and it's real raw and unique in areas that, if you want to make a real difference, you 100% can. And I think that sometimes that's where you want to see it. You can see exactly where the difference has been made and how much it means to the people who are receiving it. So yeah, hopefully, if there's anyone listening, there's someone who can get involved, then be keen to have a look at that.
Brilliant. And that neatly brings us on to our next question, which is from Kira Kennedy. And Kira is the team manager of the Guiseley Berkshire team. And Kira sent me this question. I've got to say, she's got the best team manager involved. They were her words. So there you go, Kira. I kept my promise. Which player has shown the most improvement growth since the start of the season?
Oof, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think all of our young girls that have come through, and that's not like a cop out, but I think that you've got to look at the girls that have come through that are dead young. So I think you've got, Ruby Walker, Ebony Stead, Ruby Bruce, Connie Boyd, Frankie Blakey. They almost came through as like a little bit of a five together from the 19s. They only had 1 year in the 19s and they've come to Women's Super League, and it is a big step. Like, it is a big step, mixing with a lot of, I laugh at them. So Miles ended up in hospital back in April, and the girls all sent me a card, and I was winding them up. I opened the card and I was reading it, and it were, hope you're okay. From, I think it was something like from Ruby, Ebony, and Connie. I was like, they can't even sign a card on their own. Like, that's how young they are. Do you know what I mean? They did like, I don't know what to say, just sign it. So we forget how young they are, and then they're out there mixing it in Women's Super League, and they have come on leaps and bounds. And I think that they get challenged week in, week out to be better, and that's probably a little bit different because they've always been really good in the environment they're in, and they are brilliant in the environment we're in. But we're going, right, you've done that. Can you do that now? You've got that right. Can you do that now? And it's always something coming at them. And I think that actually, they've been really good in the last couple of weeks. They've and our girls will say that actually that's what they really enjoy about having players come through the pathway. They lift you up, they raise you up, they make you want to be better. And we've seen that in games. Frankie scoring a little dive over try at St Helens. Ebony doubling up on tackles when they're coming out of yardage, and Ruby, she had a really good session at training last night, just bossing everyone around and starting to find her feet and being that dominant halfback. So Connie got player of the match the other day in Dice with England Dice, and Brucey has just been a handful coming out of 9, and I think that's what we really like, that she complements Kira. Kira sometimes starts the game, and you bring Brucey on and she complements that by being a bit of a handful, and also giving us some messages in terms of, I want you to come off the bench and make a real impact here in defence. And she doesn't take a backward step. She's lifted us when we've needed it. So I think, the young girls coming through have been really good, and just challenging them to always improve has been probably a change for them. But they've adapted to it really well and taken the opportunity with both hands. And it's really enjoyable being involved with them, but also watching them develop on the field as well.
Brilliant, yeah, and we're all about celebrating that success. In fact, Ebony this week won the try of the month for June. That was voted for by the public, and without going on a bit of a downer, one of the things we spoke about. I was in talking to the team last week about our partnership with We Are 8 and social media, and the pressure, particularly on young girls, that social media presents. Really sad to see some comments on our Facebook group from people, decrying the try because Ebony's try and say it wasn't against, the defence wasn't very good and stuff like that. And I just think that's so pathetic, really, but absolutely pathetic that certain people, men, it is men that seem threatened by women's sport that and you don't need to say this, so I'm happy to say it. We can either promote rugby league to 50% of the population and give opportunities to 50% of the population, or we can give it to 100% of the population. Yeah, and girls and women's rugby league isn't a threat to men's rugby league and boys rugby league. It's actually an advantage. We can grow our sport. God knows rugby league needs to grow.
Yeah.
You know, we're challenged by football and rugby union and tennis, Wimbledon Fortnight and all other sports. We need to grow the game, and it's not a threat. And celebrating Ebony's brilliant try is great. You know, and it was voted for the public. It wasn't like, you know, people voted for that try. They liked that try. So if you've got an issue with that, have a look at yourself and maybe get off social media. You've got a problem with that. But, you know, the great partnership we've got with We Are Right, they put in money into the team. They're supporting the team. And it's important for us to have an environment that girls can feel safe on social media.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just always, if my mum's brought me up, then my dad has brought me up to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say it. I just think if it's not really going to be constructive, there's maybe no need to maybe be discussing it, I guess. But I think it can be. It's just not nice to have to read or listen to or anything like that. And I fully get, you know, people allowed opinions, but I think it's just, is it going to help that player? Is it going to help that cause? And I think We Are Right is brilliant, like you say, in terms of creating a positive space for that. But yeah, I think our girls are pretty thick-skinned, and they just know that it's kind of just keep doing what we're always doing, and that's all we can control. But We Are Right is brilliant, and the girls are looking forward to keep pushing and promoting that, and making sure that we can create as much noise around what we're doing, and a lot of the great stuff that's going on with our women's first team, the academy, the pathway, and the foundation. So keep pushing the positivity, because it's a lot more productive than anything else.
Absolutely. All positive going forward. A couple of questions that are related to each other. What's the best part about coaching the women, and what's the hardest thing about coaching?
The sleepless nights. I think I was thinking last night around what interchange we'll make, and I think that's probably the thing that people don't realise about coaching is it's not just like black and white. It's a lot of grey, and you've got to be comfortable being in that grey area. And as the girls probably call me a control freak. Mark will probably call me a control freak. My mum will probably call me a control freak. But I'm not. I like being organised, and I like to know exactly what's happening. And I think that you've got to be comfortable embracing that you can't always do that in coaching, because things come down to the wire of like injury timelines. Things come down to the wire on, you know, you can't predict what's going to happen in a game. So in an ideal world, you might have these and interchanges, and that looks perfect. But I say to the girls all the time, like, things happen, and it totally changes what we do moving forward. And I always say to them, just make sure you're aware that whatever you think that I've probably thought 700 different scenarios as well as what you're thinking I've thought. So I think that's probably the toughest part, is that always just being able to adapt and change and be quite chill, that you've just got to adapt on the fly, really. The most enjoyable bit is just being in that team environment, being around the girls, trying to get the best out of them, out of staff. But yeah, everyone plays their part throughout the year, that, you know, they make it a real good environment to be in and challenge each other. So yeah, I think that the most enjoyable bit is being part of a team, and having that sort of that journey. It's tough at times, but the highs are really, really good. The lows are never as bad when you've got good people around you. So.
Next one from Margie Watson. Are you getting what you expected from your new recruits? I know Mel Howard in particular was a big signing for us, and she's really fitted into the side and leading the guys around.
I don't know if that's one of her friends, actually. I've just listened to the name there. I'll have to ask Mel. I think, new recruits wise, obviously Mel, we needed to bring in a halfback, a little bit more senior, in terms of we knew we had a young team, and Leon Crick did an amazing job in terms of, before he left, having them conversations and teeing that up, making sure that Mel got in and got settled. And yeah, she's definitely adding value. We're a better team the more times she gets her hands on the ball. And she understands the girl, and she understands the game, and she's good for us in terms of managing that sort of expectation. She's very much a bit similar to Courtney in aspects, in terms of, and that comes from like probably her age and her background in terms of playing at elite level sport. It's never that good, it's never that bad, like just pretty steady, and that's real good. But I think the girls know when she demands more of them, and that don't come from like a shouting. I think she can just slip it and just be like, nah, I need this now. And I think, you know, Mel's adapting to the English game as well, and adapting to being over here. And I think we've seen her have some real good performances, and I'm sure we'll see more to come as she's growing into the season. But yeah, we are definitely a better team the more times she touches the ball. And I think last time out against Saints, her kicking game was brilliant in terms of she got us a lot of repeat sets, made sure we kept possession, and she didn't mind defending. She actually said to me the other day she didn't used to like defending, but now she does, and you can tell she puts body about, and she's real key to be busy at marker and if she gets a little bit frustrated, you can tell that switch flicks. She's dead aggressive and passionate. So yeah, I think Mel's been great for us in terms of adding and the other girls that have come in as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Leon there and the job he did back in the last year and the start. He did a great job coming back in to help out. And that was because obviously you were on maternity leave. And that's something that a Super League men's coach doesn't have to deal with. How was that last year? Obviously, pregnancy for any woman is a tough period of time, but that and then the arrival of your second son coming into a new season. How was that period of time?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I find it funny with pregnancy. I feel like when you're in it, it's kind of like, wow, this is a lot. And then you're kind of out of it and you forget it ever happened. I remember seeing a photo walking out of Wembley, and I struggle with like being in a sporting environment with a bump. I feel like I just don't know how it fits. I don't mind having a bump, and I like having a bump, and I think my body's amazing for what it's doing. But then I just catch myself and think, what, like, I don't know, like I want to just kind of be me in terms of running around, dashing around after a ball, and you've got to be careful. I remember with first pregnancy, I nearly got took out with a blooming Beth Lockwood on a tackle shield, and then the girls been like, ah. So yeah, I think I find it difficult in terms of having to manage what I do in terms of other people thinking, should you be doing that? Me thinking, be a little bit more steady. But in season, it was fine. The only touch and go moment was having to travel to Barrow in Helen Schofield's car, our player welfare officer, because we're all a bit worried that if anything did twinge or tweak and I'm on the coach can't turn around. So I travelled solo with Helen to make sure, because it was quite close to that. Must have been in July and I was due in August. So we were getting sort of a little bit closer. And should I be over in Barrow? Maybe not, but we did. Yeah, so it was good, and obviously then you can't time pregnancies, you can't time when babies arrive. So obviously I missed the back end of the season. I was at the semi-final with Miles, but it would probably have only been maybe a week, 2 weeks old. So that was obviously difficult, but obviously we knew it was coming for a long time. So you had that transition period with Leon and Laura and Ellis, and making sure that everyone could head in the same direction. So that was all right. And having then Leon in place to manage and head up the pre-season phase was really good for me, because I think with your second child, it's always a little bit different balancing act, and also like knowing that it goes so quick. So I kind of wanted to be around, but being a coach is so tiring in terms of your phone's always on, people always want quite a lot from you and being constantly switched on. I didn't think that I'd be in a position to give my absolute all to the girls, and that's all they deserve. When I'm around them, I've got to be the best version of me, and I've got to be like, give them everything I've got. And I just knew that I probably wasn't early doors, and because he was born in the August, so starting back in the November, and he'd only be a couple of months old. I just didn't think I was quite ready, so took a bit of a transition phase of making sure I got family life sorted. He was a bit up and down with his health. He had a few stints in hospital, so that didn't help really in terms of getting back in the time that I wanted to. But I think everyone knows it's kind of family first when it gets to those points. So yeah, it was difficult for me being away, because like I've said before, some people refer to me as a control freak. I like to know what's going on. Leon's never been on the phone as much, I think his wife would say, because we'd constantly be checking in. But yeah, him and Laura were amazing in terms of making sure the girls had a real good pre-season, and put them in the best position to make sure they're successful this year. So I was dipping in and out, but like I say, he took the reins on that and was real good and supportive, and the girls really enjoyed working with him. So it was good all around, really.
Yeah, fantastic. That's incredible commitment to the cause, Lois, going up to Barrow. And as you started out by saying your favourite thing about the Rhinos is the people, and the fact that you, as much as you may think of yourself as a control freak, the fact you can trust the people around to make sure the pre-season is how you'd want it to be is a great one there. Just a last few there. One about the team currently. What's the time frame for Grace Field, Ruby Enright and Lucy Owen to return?
Yeah, so Grace Field is back in the mix now. She's just working on being back in team training and making sure she's pushing week in, week out to be the best version of herself. And she's just hit her final markers. So Grace Field is back in and around team training, which is real good to have her back in. Ruby Enright, we said, didn't we, as well? Rubes has had her second. So basically Ruby had 2 operations staggered. So one on one leg, then one on the other leg. And she's back in with us at training now, but not on field. She's obviously got a little bit of a slow recovery, but I think that, you know, it's kind of, it'd be real back end of season or start of next season for Rubes. It's very much a see how we go. And she's well aware of that. But it's good, like I say, that she's been well looked after, and she can now focus on moving forward, because it was quite a different sort of injury that doesn't come up an awful lot in sport. So it's good that she's been looked after. And Lacey will be back, hopefully in the mix as soon as we can, really. So she's rolled her ankle as well at the moment, so there's been some ongoing bits that's kept her out of selection at the moment, and she's now rolled her ankle to add to that. But I think that the positive thing and the pleasing thing about Lacey is that she's closer to being back in training and on the field than she has been at any point this season. So we're really looking forward to getting Lacey in the mix, because I think she'll make a big impact when she gets a little bit of consistency with us.
And we saw the nines last weekend, and we got through to the semi-final of that. It was a very young side that Ellis had involved in that. What do you think of nines, just quickly, in terms of is it a good development tool?
It is, yeah. I think some of the girls would disagree in the first team there. They were kind of breathing a sigh of relief that they had that quick turnaround for the Saints game, and we opted to enter our under-19s team. It is good. I think it's quick. It makes sure that the people who are on have to have maximum involvements in the game. It really highlights some of your sort of systems in terms of smaller picture, like it's the bigger picture stuff on a smaller scale, and a lot of decision making and core skill under fatigue as well. So really, as a coach, it's all the things that you're kind of big on pushing, and it put our under-19s girls in a real good opportunity to develop and learn. They've obviously been winning all their games this season. So actually, if you're playing in a 66-0 game, you're not always getting challenged. And we had the conversation last night with the women at training. If you're not getting things wrong, or having to fix things up, then you're not learning, you're not developing. You can't always be good. You've kind of got to put yourself in a spot where you find things difficult and you learn a way to be better next time. And the 19s definitely did that. I think that they were tough, they were competitive, and they showed a lot of skill. It was just that final game against Huddersfield was a tough game, and it went to golden point. And I think I think it was 13 minutes straight through the games. It's obviously one mistake can then change the momentum of the game, and learning how you can maybe swing that back, or understanding that actually that might be your opportunity missed, and it was really good for them. They gave a real good account for themselves. They represented the club really well, and it just shows that the future is bright. So yeah, we enjoyed the weekend at West Park for the RFL 9s.
And it's the round 2 of the NRLW this weekend. Sky Sports are showing all the games across the 17 games across the NRL, the NRLW, and Super League this weekend on Sky Sports. Is the NRLW something you follow? Obviously, this weekend, 2 of our former players, Fran versus Georgia, as the Cowboys go up against the Knights.
Yeah, I do follow the NRLW, and it's good to see how all the English girls are going. And I know majority of the girls scored in round 1, which was really, really good to see. Paige Travis obviously making her debut, moving from St Helens over there. So yeah, keep up to date with it, and obviously keep close eyes on Georgia and Fran. And yeah, that'll be a cracker I'd like to watch, because when we talk about passion, there's 2 passionate players in that mix, and yeah, they compete at the highest level, but they'll also show their passion and their competitive edge in that game, and hopefully see both of them on the score sheet again.
Fantastic. We mentioned Sky Sports there. You can watch our women's team in action against St Helens. It was a draw last time the 2 sides met in the Betfred Women's Super League, so it's all set up for a fantastic game on Friday, live on Sky Sports and here at AMT Henley. Get down early, give the women's team your support. It'll be vital for our success. Great to hear from Lois answering your questions here on the Q&A edition. Don't forget, we'll be back on Monday with our match review, where hopefully we'll be reporting on a double for the sides on Friday night for the women and the men. Here at AMT Henley. It's going to be a great weekend of rugby league action. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast to stay in touch with all the latest podcasts from the Leeds Rhinos. We've got so much coming out at the moment. We've got lots more box 2s in the pipeline with some legends of the club appearing coming up soon for that one. We've also got the knock-on effect with Jared O'Connor and Tom Nicholson-Watt. There's a new episode that's currently being edited to be out very soon, which is Lockie Miller, which will be a great one to watch when that comes out. And make sure that you stay in touch. On Monday, we'll have our match review, as you mentioned earlier, to hear all our thoughts on the action. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review so we can keep climbing those podcast charts. And as we mentioned there, if you want to get involved in women's rugby league and get on board as a sponsor, if you've got a company that you think your brand is fantastically aligned to what we're trying to do here at Leeds Rhinos, get in touch with us here at the club, and we can find a way so you can support the fantastic work that Lois and all the staff are doing, particularly in schools. Our rugby league development program is a fantastic thing, but it needs money to be able to keep that work going and keep as many coaches out in schools and get kids playing the greatest game of all. So get in touch if you think that's something you can help support. Fantastic to have you on board again, joining us on the Leeds Rhinos podcast. We'll see you on Monday. Hopefully get down to AMT Henley on Friday night. It's going to be a cracker Friday night under the lights here at AMT Henley. Both our teams in action against Saints, and we've got a brilliant action for you to enjoy. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.